What are you avoiding in 2026? What is the one thing that you are putting off in 2026? What's the one thing you're trying to escape in 2026? Today's episode is the mental recipe that keeps people in the past, and this is the mental recipe of escaping discomfort. You could think of it as a shortcut in the brain. Now, the people who are always trying to escape discomfort, what tends to happen is they will only live 50% of their life. And I do want to share with you that there is a lot of this law of attraction manifestation crowd that have that mental recipe of escaping discomfort, that they want to manifest their way out of discomfort. And I'm not here to argue for or against manifestation or law of attraction or anything like that. But I am here to bring the reality of understanding that the difficult times can indeed happen. And if you're rigged up to be predictive, if your brain is constantly predicting what's happening next, you're trying to escape the uncomfortable times. There's good times and there's bad times. But even the bad times can become the good times. I think a lot of people don't know that. Think of a fight you had with somebody and you laughed about it afterwards. Think of it that way. But here's the deal. The mental recipe is straightforward. It's very straightforward. You might avoid conversations with people and you start to put it off. Or you're going for a job, you want to apply for a job, you put an application in, but you don't do it. The application just waits until tomorrow. You just say, tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. Or you might have a business idea and it stays in your notebook and you never act on it, not realizing that action creates evidence. So this is not an issue with your intelligence. It's not an issue with your lack of talent. This is the mental recipe that revolves entirely around escaping discomfort. And people will do it. And once you see it, once you understand it, once you know it, you will notice it everywhere. You'll notice it in other people as well. And it's not becoming predicting of people. You're not trying to be predictive of what they're doing, but it helps you understand and identify where it's happening, what's going on. So the escape discomfort recipe is really simple. Okay, whenever something super crucial appears in your reality, your brain becomes really predictive and it tries to notice that uncomfortable aspect. And guess what? You move away from discomfort. And that's where people want to be on the side of being positive all the time. I want things to be positive all the time. And I want life to be 100% positive. And I want to share with you that being positive is not a matter of avoiding your feelings. We have to be able to process our feelings and feel them. I've always been the person to leverage that and move into that because I've had experiences myself in the past. But if you move away from discomfort, when the discomfort disappears, it's like, oh, okay, there's good things now, right? But the brain learns that escape works for you. That the more you keep escaping the uncomfortable, the more it rears its ugly face in your reality. And this big cycle goes over and over and over again. And that's the recipe. It's really powerful because it works fast. It happens really quick. It's not a permanent thing. What I want you to understand is this. Remember this quote. I'll get a tattoo of this at some point. But maybe it's a quote you could write down and put on your Post-it note. Good times can't stay. And bad times also can't stay. And that is why we develop gratefulness every step of the way, because it becomes the biggest neutralizer. And that's where gratitude or appreciation, we'll use the word appreciation if gratitude has a negative connotation for people, it's where it becomes supportive. But people get really nervous and the brain becomes very predictive and they start feeling nervous. Like you have to make a phone call for work, but you keep putting it off. You don't make the call, right? And if you don't make the call, what happens is your nervousness totally disappears. It goes away. So the brain says, good job, we survived, yay, and it starts clapping. Your brain has this little micro party inside of it, which is interesting. The brain doesn't give a damn that the problem still exists. It only cares that the discomfort went away. So why does your brain keep doing that? Well, your brain is very predictive. Think of it as like its own little algorithm towards the internet. It is predictive. It's designed to protect you. It's designed to predict what happens next, or at least try. So protection is not the same thing as the actual progress and the steps that you have to take, because quite honestly, you have to have some momentum moving forward. And your brain will need certainty. It craves it. It wants safety. It wants comfort. It wants all that. It wants familiar. It likes that. And when you go into an environment and someone rearranges your entire living room and you come home and like, what happened? That familiar can bother you. Like, it could be one of the things where you come home, you see that your spouse reorganized the entire living room and moved the furniture everywhere, and you're like, why? Your brain says, why? Everything was fine. Why did you do that? And that's where your brain becomes really predictive. It's like, well, change brings growth. So your brain wants comfort. It wants the old way. And it'll get mad or angry on occasion when the furniture gets rearranged or your environment somehow changes. You might be in a job where your environment is a particular department with a particular group of people, and suddenly you walk into work to find out that your whole entire position has been overhauled. You're not fired, but they put you in a new environment with a new group of people, and now you don't know how to take that because you are in that familiar space. You've been in that place where I know them, I know their faces, I know that I don't have the same camaraderie, and you become resistant to what's new. So the growth is there, but growth feels really uncertain. And that's the thing, is your brain wants the familiar, but growth doesn't contain familiarity. It feels weird. It feels awkward. It feels uncomfortable. So the brain notices what's going on and it treats it like a warning sign. That's what happens. And it's not a weakness. You're not a weak person. You're not lacking any intelligence. The brain is doing what it's built to do, to be predictive, to crave safety every step of the way. But what happens when we avoid the emotions around death? What happens when we avoid that conversation that we could have actually had at work that would make a difference in the relationship? What happens? Because the problems that modern life actually requires us to do is to feel uncomfortable at times. And that's why I say, like, the law of attraction manifestation crowd, they get hooked up into that be delusional. And I see people saying that, be delusional, be delusional. But your delusions don't include other people all the time. That's the thing. People think that's true, and I got news for you. Reality sets in at some point. You may not be able to face your feelings as a result of craving and staying on the positive side all the time. Neutrality is incredibly powerful because to be neutral allows you to go from negative to positive. It allows you to process your feelings before you move. See, it's not a matter of staying positive or staying negative. It's about when something goes down, can you just be in that neutral place and just feel your feelings fully and then pivot when the time comes right? Because there's a massive cost. Remember, there's a cost to doing and a cost to not doing. And if you try to escape discomfort all the time, it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. One day of you avoiding something, it doesn't look very serious on the surface, but guess what? It starts to amplify. It starts to become a snowball. Okay, one workout that you skip because of the pain, it costs you the whole entire habit. One job application that you decide to avoid costs you the opportunity itself. Now the job is no longer on the table. One unfinished project that you could have headed on, you could have taken on head on, you decided to push away. None of those things really seem important at all, but the damage actually happens. It happens in the tiniest points throughout this whole journey. And it'll happen weeks down the line, months down the line, because you got to remember what this does to your identity. Let me explain what it does to your identity. Action creates evidence. Evidence reinforces your identity. So when you take action and go and experience that discomfort, it creates confidence in that process. But when you don't do that, there's a cost to doing, there's a cost to not doing. When you don't do that, your brain starts collecting evidence as well. The evidence that you'll never finish, the evidence that you'll never start, the evidence that you don't trust yourself, the evidence that literally leads to the biggest loss, and it's not always just a missed opportunity. It's your biggest loss in actual confidence. You lose your confidence. So action creates evidence for the positive and for the negative. Confidence happens little by little when you keep your promises to yourself, when you feel your feelings fully, people that are only staying on the comfortable side of life are losing out on 50% of life. And we can't just be motivational. I'm not going to be a motivational poster here. I'm not going to do that. It's not fair. Motivation is not the missing ingredient in the recipe. It's not. It's not there. Motivation comes and goes. It happens, but it's not there all the time because there's intrinsic and extrinsic. Action comes first, then the confidence follows, then the motivation catches up. When you get confidence, you're like, you know what? I'm going to do more. I'm going to do totally more. So you get a new recipe. That's what happens. Discomfort, it occurs, it goes down. You notice that, but you move forward anyway. And then the discomfort actually takes the back seat. Okay, your brain now says, I've learned something here. There's something here that is now reinforcing my identity. I can handle this. That's what your brain starts to say. You get a mental blueprint of evidence that says, I've been here before, I've done this before. It's not an overnight thing, and it's not very dramatic, but it does happen day by day. Even the learning is uncomfortable. Building relationships with people is uncomfortable. Growing is uncomfortable. Facing death is uncomfortable. Healing is uncomfortable. Feeling your emotions fully is uncomfortable. The concept of being uncomfortable, it doesn't tell you to stop. It's not about stopping. It's about understanding what matters and how it can reinforce your identity in your journey. That's where it gets really interesting. And that brings us to the final part of the whole law of attraction manifestation crowd that's out there. And this is where a lot of people get it all twisted up and confused. A lot of people in those communities, they accidentally turn discomfort into the enemy. That's what I want you to understand. They start believing that negative emotions block success or you shouldn't feel your emotion. That's where they go down that road of discomfort is a problem. They start believing that the feeling is bad or the problem is bad. But what about feeling your emotions? They start believing that negative emotions will somehow block your life in some way, shape, or form. And it's out there. This is all over the place. They start believing that doubt, fear, uncertainty, frustration, anxiety, they're all signs that something is wrong. But what about feeling your feelings and moving through them? So when the discomfort comes up, they try to get rid of it. Now, self-talk, auto-suggestions, they are functional because they have to move you through those problems. You know, that everything is going to work itself out one way or another. And you have that mindset that you're going to move through it. You might feel some things along the way. But if you try to force positive thoughts, you try to raise your vibe, you try to stay in that good mood, you try to think your way into a better feeling when someone's dead, the intention is good. Like, I get it, I understand. But the problem is that discomfort did not disappear. It did not disappear. The mental recipe is they will escape discomfort and put on a spiritual costume to try to move through it. And we have to be able to feel our feelings. So it's not about avoiding it. If you're avoiding it through positive thinking all the time, that could be a problem. You have to keep in mind, I'm not throwing dirt or heaping scorn on that community. I am saying that the mentality needs adjustment. It needs to be more adaptable. There are some people that have that this or that mentality, this XY kind of idea. We can't just avoid it through the positive thinking because the mental recipe will stay the same. And what discomfort actually means is it's not a punishment. It's not a sign that things are going wrong. It's not proof or evidence that you're completely off track, but it is giving you some kind of information in your reality. It means you are literally involved in something and it feels unfamiliar. So you can transform your emotions to curiosity. That's healthy. But you're going to have difficult conversations. You can't just positive your way through difficult conversations with people. It doesn't always work that way. You have to have hard conversations sometimes. It has to happen. Starting a business can be uncomfortable. Applying for a job can be uncomfortable. Being honest creates discomfort. This is the 50% of life. All right? The feeling and emotions, it tells you that the energy is moving in that direction. It's how you translate that. It's not about how do I get rid of this emotion or feeling. It's not about that. It's what is this feeling trying to tell me? What is it trying to show me? Building that healthy relationship with discomfort. Having that courage, having that curiosity. We have to stop treating discomfort like it's an emergency, because fear can come along for the ride, so can doubt, so can anxiety. That's what's important. They don't decide where your car goes, where your journey goes. That's not it. That's not it at all. But discomfort is no longer the thing that controls your life. It becomes part of the journey. And even if you are part of the manifestation law of attraction crowd, it becomes part of your journey. So that's where it gets interesting. Can I still move forward even though I'm feeling this feeling, right? And some people will alchemize the emotion. They'll take that emotion and translate it into a different idea. It's almost like taking something inside of you and putting it outside of you. I'm going to take this fear, throw it into action. That's a way of alchemizing it, if you had to think of that word. But you stop waiting for courage. You stop waiting for certainty all the time. It's not about attracting the better life. It's not about that. It's about becoming the kind of person who could actually stay fully present and feel your shit fully, and even though it's uncomfortable. It's about creating that meaningful change in your life and not fearing who you can be. Not letting fear become the boss. Not letting fear negotiate every step of the way. You got to be uncomfortable at some point. You have to feel that. It's not the perfect emotional weather. You got to learn how to walk through the rain and appreciate that the rain brings the flowers in life afterwards. Don't lose the 50% of life. Discomfort will lose its authority when you start to embrace it. When you start to move through it, you start to notice it, you start to allow it to be here. Allow that feeling to be here. Move anyway. Grow. That's where it all begins. And that's what I want to say. And believe me when I say I mean well, but the mental recipe of avoiding discomfort, it removes 50% of life. Start to move through your feelings and embrace the other half of life, because you can get curious and turn it into that awesome vibe and really have an incredible direction. Take care.